Coming up here today on the Radar, we're going to look at some potential offensive coordinator candidates to pair with Pete Carroll and John Spytek. I'm Mitchell Wren, host of the Raiders Report, and if you find yourself looking for Raiders videos every single day, make sure you click that subscribe button. Make sure you turn on those notifications, chugs, and I just went live for about 3 to 4 hours discussing everything that there is around Pete. But I don't know about y'all. I called this hire a risky hire. I get how old Pete Carroll is, but let's be honest, we can't fall into another Luke Gady type of situation. Head coach is important, but finding that right and proper offensive coordinator is almost just as of important for any NFL team out there. So these are not ranked in any particular way. I'm just going to go through a list of names of some people that have some Carroll connections. And then, once we get a little bit more news, probably next week, I will make a more in-depth video around these candidates. Let's call it that. The Raiders were trying to do. The Raiders honestly wanted to bring in Carroll Saleh, and Lore was a plan that was discussed. Obviously, Saleh ended up taking that job there with the San Francisco 49ers. But for somebody that doesn't call plays, that's an OC, and this is a really good opportunity for the floor. Let's go to the next name here. It's Klint Kubiak, offensive coord, Ator for the New Orleans Saints, and this was somebody that the Raiders reached out to last season and brought in for an interview. In terms of OC, he decided to go down to New Orleans, but with his family ties and the offense that I believe that he's going to try to run, I think it'd be very familiar to the type of offense that Seattle used to run with Pete Carroll / mainly Russell Wilson. Next name coming up here is Byron Louis. He hasn't coached in the NFL since 2022. He was honestly going to be the head coach. I think last year the Jags didn't take that job because of Trent Baalke. Now, you see, Liam Cohn ended up getting that job, but Leftwich is somebody that likes to throw the ball down the field. Leftwich also has some Pittsburgh ties. Maybe that influences a little bit with that Russell Wilson decision. I know they didn't overlap, but Leftwich was the OC when Tom Brady won a Super Bowl down in Tampa Bay. Now, here's the number one question that I got to know. Who do you want to be the Raiders? Next offensive coordinator. You're about to get hit with a YouTube B-break. I want you to scroll on down and give me your answer. My answer is coming up here in just a moment. The number one name that I want the Raiders to go out and get and look at for an OC. Hang on. I got to cough. It's not Tom Coughlin. I promise. One of the names that I'm looking at is Mike LaFleur. Klint Kubiak, I think, would both be very, very solid names. But the number one candidate that I would pick right now, Mike LaFleur, coming in from that Sean McVay tree. Let's go to another name here. And this is one that's maybe not popular, but I love offensive lines. If you want the Raiders to build an offensive line, click that button right now, because Jeff Stoutland, the offensive line coach in Philly, they just lost Jason Kelce, are going to be the greatest center of all time. And that's still one of the best offensive lines in the league if you want to be able to pair him with somebody like a John Spytek, somebody who also believes, and let's build in the trenches. Pete Carroll believes in building the trenches. I know it's an unpopular one, but Jeff Stalin has done work, and I think just deserves an interview. Let's go to another name here, and it's Frank Reich. And Reich has been a name that I've thrown out in multiple videos, simply because he was a head coach. It didn't quite work out, but he's a smart, offensive-minded guy. If you're going to bring in a Pete Carroll, to me, the OC that you got to bring in has got to be somebody that maybe you consider could be a head coach in 3 to 4 years when Pete ever decides to hang it up. Pete, 73, going to be 74 at the beginning of the year, whatever. OC, whatever DC you bring in, you have to believe that at some point they could be the guy to take over for Pete Carroll. Because if Pete succeeds, you're probably just going to want to bring in one of his predecessors right underneath him to be able to hand the keys and keep on driving. But like quarterback, Big issue running the offense. Big issue if we find a quarterback and our offense is clicking, and P, after 3 years, decides to hang it up. The offensive coordinator is going to get that job. I don't think it would go to the DC, so whoever gets this job needs to show me that he can be a head coach. And that's why Frank Reich made that list. We got 5 more names coming up here on today's show.